Hi guys, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. So today we are going to discuss a new chapter, which is on chapter 7, implementing strategies, management and operation issues. So now we have moved our discussion from the formulating part of strategic management into the implementation part of strategic management. You and all of us have been informed that when it comes to implementation of the strategy, this is the most difficult part. Why it is the most difficult part? Because sometimes strategy formulation is being designed and conducted by a different people, your top managers and whatnot. And when it comes to the implementation of the strategies started being disseminated into the downline of the organization. And then another reason is that because of the limitation of resources. So there is no way that we can fulfill everything. There is no way that we can accomplish everything. There is always an opportunity cost to the organization. So sometimes as a manager, you need to decide which one is your priority first, which one that you need to implement first, and forego something that you would do a little bit later. All right, so without further ado, let us go on the chapter objectives that we are going to cover. This is what we are going to discuss. We have already discussed this in chapter 1, but we are going to go into a little bit more detail. And then these are also another objective of the chapter that we are going to discuss, inshallah. Okay, the first one, strategic formulation is positioning forces before the action, and strategy implementation is managing forces during the action. So that is the most difficult one. The formulation part is all the thinking process, it's all the discussion process, but strategy implementation is more on towards making the plan happen, where you need to enforce on the action to implement all the things that you have strategized in the formulation stage. Strategic formulation focuses on effectiveness, deliver what is expected, and strategic implementation focuses on efficiency. How can we finish off and achieve and obtain our intended objective by using fewer resources, for example. So that is the part of strategic implementation, and why does strategic implementation is becoming more difficult. And then strategic formulation is primarily intellectual process. Like I said earlier on, it is all on the formulation part, intellectual process. But strategic implementation, we talk about operational wise. And strategic formulation requires good intuitive and analytical skill. Sometimes you use your personal experience, your intuition, your gut feeling. But when it comes to strategic implementation, you require a lot more of a leadership skills and motivation. Because of why? Because you need to move people. You need to say to people, yes, I need you to move from state A to state B in order for you to materialize the objective of the organization. And that, trust me, it is not that easy. These are some of the management issues central to strategic implementation, meaning to say that if you were to go with the strategic implementation, these are some of the issues, these are some of the problems that usually organization would be dealing with. So what is annual objective? If in strategic formulation we talk about long-term objective, and now in strategic implementation we are talking about annual objective. Why annual objective? Because when it comes to strategic implementation, the KPI is becoming shorter in terms of the lifespan, in terms of the duration period, in order for you to fulfill the objectives. And that is why at the downline, at the operational levels, we have our KPI every year, yearly KPI that you need to achieve. Because of why? Because this yearly KPI, this annual objective that has been given to us, is designed in order for us to achieve the long-term objective. If every department is able to deliver their annual objectives, then the organization can fulfill their long-term objectives. So annual objective represents the basis for allocating resources. Primary mechanism for evaluating managers are the major instrument for monitoring towards achieving long-term objectives and establish organizational, divisional, and departmental priorities. The purpose is pretty much the same. Everybody should know this. Besides, it is for used for guidelines for action, directing and channeling efforts. It provides source of legitimacy in enterprise by justifying activities to stakeholders. What does it mean by providing source of legitimacy in enterprise? Meaning that you can explain to your stakeholders why you are doing the things that you do. Why do you have to hire 40 more sales rep? Because you need to increase your profit to from 1 million to 5 million in 2 years time. So this year you need to employ more sales rep, and you need to incur more cost in terms of paying the salaries for the sales rep. So the stakeholders would understand that. That's what it means by providing a source of legitimacy in enterprise. And then serve as standards of performance, serve as an important source of employee motivation and identification, and also provide a basis for organizational design. So if we look at this particular example, we can see that this is part of the long-term objective. They want to double the revenues in 2 years, in 2 years time. So from 2 million to 4 million. So this is the divisional objective, the annual objective. And then this is more on the PI that we need to do for each of the department. Increase production by 30%, increase the number of salespeople, obtain a long-term financing of 400,000, reduce employee absenteeism. So these are all the short-term objectives that we need to do in order for us to fulfill this annual objective, in order to increase the revenues by 50% this year. So that's how the organizations would break it down in terms of the objectives that needs to be done in order to fulfill the long-term objective for organization. Okay, the second part of the strategic implementation, we talk about the annual objective already. And in the strategic implementation, we are also talking about the importance of having the policy. Why do we need to have a policy? Policy is a specific guidelines, procedures, rules, administrative practices established to support and encourage work towards stated goals. It is an instrument for strategic implementation. Policy can apply to all divisions and departments. So the policies are constraint and limits on the kinds of administrative actions that can be taken or reward, and sanction behavior, clarify what can and cannot be done. So why do we need to have an objective? In order for us to speed up the decision-making process. For example, we use a policy that all employees must finger tag by 8 a.m. every day in the morning. But yes, 8 a.m. is in the morning. So every day 8 to 5. That is the working hours. That is the policy. Because we believe that if you don't come during this time, there is no way that you can deliver your work effectively and efficiently. So that's why we have that policy. So if you don't come on time 3 times, so you will be given a warning letter. If it happens again in the future, so the top manager can take disciplinary action towards you. And another simple policy: once broken, considered sold. So every manager in any departmental store would have taken the same decision every time when a customer breaks something in their store. So you don't have to think of what are the things that we need to do, because the policy is still the same. Whoever breaks anything in this store, that person is responsible to pay for the price of that item. As simple as that. So it would speed up the decision making process. So these are some of the hierarchy of the policy that you can look into. So I think I would stop here first. We are going to discuss about the rest of the chapter in the next video.